No, the situation went and the students have been sent home, and this is how it looked like.
Sisi tulijua kaa kitu saa 4 na at least tukajaribu sana kuita ambulance, firefighters, tukaita za Limuru, tukaita Sakikuyu, sote silikuwa kama 5 mpaka Sagithunguri. Tukajaribu sana kuwasaidia, lakini usaidizi wetu ulikuwa haba sana juu walikuwa very hostile watoto wetu.
Lakini cha kuchoma hatujui ni nini, lakini wengi wao wengi tunaongea nao wanasema ati walikatazwa redio. Na ujue kuna vikundi mbili. Kuna wengine walikuwa wanachoma na kuna wengine walikuwa wanakataza. Sasa si unaona hasa hiyo inakuwa maneno mengine.
Kuna mashine walikuwa wanahitaji kuitumia. Sasa mkubwa alikuwa anambia hawa nitakuja kuwatolea jana. Sasa wakati aliona bado hajakuja kutoa. Sasa wakati walimaliza kukula sapa wakaingia kwa klasi, wakati alirudi huko. Sasa ndio wakasema ndio wakaanza sasa bujo.
Sisi tumekasirika sana kama community juu wasasi wetu wamejenga hii shule sana. Ilikuwa day school, now that it is a boarding school. Ndio tunashuhudia haya mambo.
Lakini tumeambiwa tuende inventory, tubebe vilago vyetu, ndiposa unaona sisi iko na magondolo, hii boxes, na pengine mambo yatakuwa sawa tukiendea wakati mwingine. Sijui ni lini.
All right. It's a sad start to, I hope we don't see more schools being set on alight. These things could be very dangerous. I remember, I think it was Moi Girls. There was a time it was set on fire and quite a number of students lost their lives. Now, the family of Hussein Abdirahman Muhammad, an administrator at the Wajir Huduma Center, is living in fear and uncertainty following his mysterious disappearance 5 days ago. According to close relative, Hussein vanished without a trace, and there has been no communication or leads regarding his whereabouts since. The situation has left his loved ones devastated and desperate for answers. In an emotional press briefing, Sheikh Abdi Wahab Osman, a close relative of Hussein, described the incident as deeply shocking and out of character. Local leaders have joined the family in demanding swift action from authorities. Among them is Wakberi Ward MCA Honorable Aiden Abdi Boulay, who called on security agencies to expedite investigations. The family has already filed a missing person report.
We do not know whether he has been kidnapped, harmed, or is being held against his will. What we do know is that his disappearance is out of character, deeply alarming, and demands urgent attention from both the government and the public.
Tumeambia county commissioner, tumepeleka kwa CID, tumepeleka kwa polisi, kila mahali tumekosa. Lakini ile inatusumbua leo ni kwamba tumepeleka mashtaka yetu kila mahali na tuoni hatua yoyote ikichukuliwa kwa dharura.
Kwa vile imeweka picha yake katika mtandao, tena ni mtu ambaye ana mwili kubwa. Kwa wale ambao walikuwa wameona yeye ni rahisi kutambua. Kwa tunaomba mtu yeyote ambaye amesikia ama ameona mahali popote tupashe habari mahali popote
na tuoni hatua yoyote ikichukuliwa kwa dharura.
Kwa vile imeweka picha yake katika mtandao, tena ni mtu ambaye ana mwili kubwa. Kwa wale ambao walikuwa wameona yeye ni rahisi.
Anytime you hear of missing persons, you get the heebie-jeebies because, the precedents that have been set, missing people either appear when they are not living or when they are dead, or they appear very traumatized. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and veteran opposition leader Martha Karua have announced plans to field a single presidential candidate in the 2027 general election to challenge President William Ruto's re-election bid. Speaking during the Ngemi Shiaro Raya Cultural Music Festival, attended by hundreds of Kenyans living in the United States, Gachagua reiterated his position that President Ruto does not deserve a second term in office. Currently on a 2-month tour of the US, Gachagua used the platform to rally the Kenyan diaspora to support leadership change in the next election cycle. Gachagua emphasized the need for a unified opposition, urging Kenyans abroad to engage actively in the political future of their homeland. He was accompanied by Martha Karua, party leader of the People's Liberation Party, who confirmed that talks are underway among opposition parties to identify and support a single presidential flag bearer. Karua stressed that a united front would help avoid splitting votes and increase the opposition chances of unseating the current administration.
Adu anyoba ito. Muri kwa nyoba. Hapa Amerika mnasemaje? Hata hapa Amerika? Arambe. Wewe Ruto. Wewe Kasongo. Wewe Kaongo. Wewe Zakayo. Wewe mtu ya kutenga. Wewe mwizi. Wewe muaji. Arambe.
Kuna chama moja au mtu moja ataweza komboa Kenya bila wenzake na bila Wakenya wenzake. So unity is very important na tuweke Kenya mbele ya matumaini yetu. So whoever becomes a flag bearer will be supported by everybody. Kwa kifupi sana tujiulize, Kenya ni nini tunahitaji? Tunahitaji umoja, tunahitaji kurekebisha vile tunaendesha serikali. We need good governance. We need to follow the rules we make, and that is the constitution and our laws. My brother Rigathi anasema one term. Mimi ninasema no term. No term. Na ni kwa sababu how many more must die so that Kasongo finishes one term? How many more must die? Nikwambie, muniambie, munataka Ruto au munataka Ruto aende? Ndio. Ruto must go.
It just feels funny. Aduanyoba in the States. Anyway, political activities in churches continue to surge despite a directive by the National Council of Churches of Kenya banning all political speeches and related announcement in member churches. Speaking during a relief food distribution event for needy families in Kipipiri constituency, Nyandarua, County Woman Representative Faith Getao condemned the increasing trend of politicians using churches as platforms to spread divisive and hateful messages. Getao criticized some leaders who she claimed attend church functions not for spiritual nourishment, but to launch personal attacks and engage in political showdowns. She emphasized that churches should remain sacred places dedicated to worship and spiritual reflection, not forums for political agitation.
Tunaona makanisa zingine wanafungulia hawa watu wenye siasa kuja kutukanana ndani ya kanisa. Nataka kuwauliza kwa unyenyekevu, tuache hiyo maneno. Kanisa lazima zikuwe unifying factor. Wale wanapinga na wale wanasupport, wote ni wa kanisa. Na kanisa hizi sio za mtu mmoja, kanisa ni za Mungu, la lazima tuzipatie heshima. Kwa hivyo tusialao hawa watu wanakuja kutukanana, kuitana sijui nini majina chafu chafu, wakuje kwa kanisa.
Well, I totally support that. We should not allow politicians to come to church and, see, for the very first time, I agreed with the general. They call him General. Pastor Nganga, and not because he was talking about Ruto, but because he was mentioning politicians. Because why would you give the altar to a politician to come and smear, whether he's from Rigiji's side or Rigiji himself, or whether it's Ruto or any other leader? Why should you give them the pulpit, a place where you're supposed to speak life, and allow them to criticize other leaders from your pulpit while you sit? They should not be allowed. If they're going to be talking, let them talk from outside. Keep the altar clear and holy. Now, religious leaders in Siaya County have strongly condemned President William Ruto's recent statement urging security forces to shoot in the leg during protests, describing the remarks as unconstitutional. Speaking under the umbrella of the Siaya County Church Leaders Forum, the leaders criticized the directive and called on law enforcement officers to exercise restraint and proportionality when using force. Bishop Silas Sowiti, a key member of the forum, emphasized that every citizen has the right to life and urged the police to carry out their duties with compassion and fairness. He stressed that the actions of security personnel should reflect justice and humanity. The church leader's statement comes amid rising tension over the government handling of demonstrations, with calls for peaceful management of public order and respect for human rights. They appeal to all parties to uphold the sanctity of life and ensure that security measures do not violate constitutional rights.
And say every individual has a right to life, because life is only given by God. And we are aware that when you shoot any part of the body, it can cause death. So we want to ask those in authority. We respect you because we know authority comes from God, but we also want to be candidly very clear that shoot to kill or shoot to maim or shoot to injure order is not congruent to our constitution. Therefore, we want to kindly ask those in authority, and especially the police that has received this order, that use your guns responsibly.
We are asking the government, the youth, the opposition, the politicians, the religious organizations to come together as a team so that we can exalt our country together. The best way forward for our beloved nation, for the Bible says in the book of Isaiah chapter 1 verse 18 that, "Come now, let us reason together, because we know that when the relevant people come together to consult one another, whatever happens, they are able to get the best way forward." Number 3, we encourage the national government to empower the religious leaders to coordinate and invite all the stakeholders, that is politicians, youth, and all the other leaders, to be able to foster peace for the nation. Number 4, we request every citizen to desist from breaking any law. The youth, the demonstrators, the police, and even the leaders.
Interesting. Now, worship at the AIPCA Kayole Church was brought to a halt yesterday after a group of disgruntled congregants stormed the premises and locked the main gate, disrupting the day's service. The worshippers accused the church leadership of corruption and poor governance, singling out the church chairman for what they claimed was a decade-long refusal to allow democratic elections for a new committee. According to the congregants, no proper leadership elections have been held in over 20 years. The aggrieved members demanded immediate reforms, calling on church authorities to intervene and oversee the election of a new leadership team.
Timuliwa waondoke kwa viti, tuwe na katika kamiti, ile pesa wamekula ichunguzwe, ndio sasa tuwe na level program. Hakuna uchaguzi, mambo ya homosexual hapa imekuwa ni rampant, na tukiongea hakuna mtu anatusikiza.
Kwa hivyo sisi tunaomba waondoke, hatuna ubaya. Hata saa hii wakija tufunguliwa, tuambiwa wametoka kwenye viti na waondoke kwa uongozi, sisi tuko usalama.
Chakula tunachanga kwa wingi, unaweza pata chakula mingi lakini wa maskini hawaendi na chakula. Unapata washirika wanaenda kulalisha watoto wao njaa na chakula tumeacha kwa gara, hawasaidiwi. Bali hawa viongozi wa matajiri ndio wanabeba, wanaweka kwa buti za gari zao wanaenda.
You know what I've learned? I've learned that every time you see leadership wrangles, people fighting to either to take over or to remain in leadership, it always has one thing there's normally one common denominator, the ching-ching. Somebody's looking for money or somebody's seeking to retain. And it's a very unfortunate situation, because when you have that kind of thing happening, and mostly so in the church, how does the church again, the same church now, come and become the conscience of the society? Now, there were controversial remarks that were made by our Jew woman representative, Fatuma Jihao, which have now triggered a wave of national outrage, with both citizen and political leaders condemning her statements as undemocratic and dangerous to the rule of law. Jihao, while speaking publicly in Wajir, boldly declared that she would support the re-election of President William Ruto in 2027 even if he were to lose, through alleged vote rigging. At the same event in Wajir, several leaders from the northeastern region, led by Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale, publicly pledged their support for President Ruto's re-election bid. The leaders cited key developmental milestones achieved under the Kenya Kwanza administration, particularly in the healthcare sector, including the rollout of the Social Health Insurance Fund, SHA, aimed at achieving universal healthcare access.
Yesterday, I have seen a tweet from Eugene Wamalwa saying that the President of the Republic of Kenya have decided to register 3 million Somali refugees to steal elections. I want to tell him categorically, we are not against all refugees in this country.
Sisi maneno yetu ni mafupi tu. Tunasema tu 2 term. Ama kuna maneno mengine? 2 term. Sio? Si tunangojea tu debe iletwe, hata kama hatutakuwa na votes tutamuibia. Hiyo si siri.
Constitutional rights also come with responsibilities. We need to be fair to the administration that is in office. We need to give them time to implement the agenda. And in 2 years, every Kenyan will have the opportunity and the democratic right to vote for whoever they think is the best to lead us.
Watu ambao siku hizi wameamua kuvunja na kuharibu mali ya hii nchi, wakitaka kutumia nguvu kujiweka katika usukani ya hii nchi. Na tukikubali mambo hayo kama hayo kufanyika, hatuwezi kuendelea na hatuwezi kuungana vile tulivyoungana leo.
Uhuru handed over to you, President Ruto, a peaceful and a stable nation. You must implement the oath you took in Kasarani. And speaking on behalf of all governors of Kenya as chair of council, you have my support, you have my assurance that we will work with you to ensure that SHA succeeds for the benefit of the average Kenyan.
All right, let's take a quick look at the headlines in the newspapers. And I start with the Daily Nation, which says, Lagat off the hook. Lagat off the hook. If you're wondering, who in the world is Lagat? Lagat is the police commissioner, the deputy inspector general, who was accused of having participated or played a role in the death of Albert Ojwang. Because Lagat had launched a complaint about some of the things that Ojwang had said about him. And then DCI officers were sent to Ojwang's home. He was brought to Nairobi and murdered at Central Police Station. So the internal investigations say that he's not guilty. Okay. Now, how Realtor, bank staff, and cover-up rocked 1.5 billion equity heist probe. Why? And you have the pictures of two individuals. There's a businesswoman, Ruth Muthoni Kamau, and then former Lesedi boss, Geoffrey Kirago, Elias Gideon Kamau Geshi. These are the people who played a role that saw the chair of Equity Bank so livid and fired quite a number of people. Nairobi United, from estate kickabout to playing against the giants of Africa. Nairobi United is set to represent Kenya in the Continental Confederation Cup along Premier League leaders, Kenya Police. And then we have, it's not game over for Ruto, allies vow as wars rock Kenya Kwanza. And then Gachagua, Raila, the unlikely kingmakers. And then you have a detailed story of the 1.5 billion Equity Bank heist. Let me tell you something. I've come to learn, until you know people, never envy people that you see driving big cars. Never envy them. I have nothing against them, and definitely you will see what I drive. Don't envy some of them who you pray and wish and frustrate and get depressed when you compare yourself with them, are thieves. They've just stolen money from institutions, and that's the reason why they do that. In fact, there was a report that came out that says very few Kenyans, billionaires, are real billionaires. Most of them stole stuff. It was a research that was done. At the back page of the Nation, gritty Zimbabwe extinguished Kenya's World Cup hopes. Out Niger. And then the Standard newspaper, this is what it says. Oh no, not again. There's a girl missing. And not just missing. After a day-long standoff between two state security agencies, the police and the prison service, over where 24-year-old Julia Kariuki lost her life, the prison service has admitted she died in their custody. Though they claim that she arrived already injured, the cold deflection of responsibility, even as a life is lost, echoes the very impunity Kenyans have been protesting against. Now pressure is mounting on President William Ruto to rein in the growing tension and apparent thirst for blood within the ranks of his security forces. And then here you've got a story of how police conceal evidence after taking lives of innocent people. You know, there's a young man who was arrested and taken to court because he said something that is true. I mean, you can kill people, you can murder people, and even get away declared free and all that, and no accountability is done. But there's one you don't get away from. There's a God in heaven. There's a world there's a world beyond this world. And that's where real justice is served. And you'll not just serve it when you go to the afterworld, you'll serve it here. If not you, unless something is done and you turn to Christ, your children and your children's children will pay for your sins. That's the unfortunate thing about what happens. Now the third page is topical issues grab focus at music festival. At least this time there was no controversy, people being stopped from performing. Outrage, grief as another Kenyan dies in the hands of law enforcers. Moi High School, Kabarak conducts special prayers for KCSE candidates. Then missing bullets in demo victims spark questions. Postmortems are showing entry wounds without bullets. Raising fears, key evidence is removed to protect shooters. Police say no complaints have been formally submitted. Right defendants argue people are too afraid or injured to speak up. Then you have why state has resorted to terrorism charges. And then heartbreak for Kenya as Simba's bow out of 2027 World Cup race. Then the Star newspaper. What aggrieved Gen Z want amid broken promises? Ruto has been told to apologize and revoke shoot order. Diaspora inflow stabilized shilling as Kakuzi bullish. And then here's what Gen Z, an in-depth story of what they want. They say their voice is not being heard by the government. They have minimal confidence in the government. Say they trust the government very little. Say they don't trust the government at all. That's 26%. Have moderate level of trust. It's a survey that was done. Kitengela Queen of Hydroponic is a good read. Just see what is there. Ambitious Wanyonyi running. Olympic champ rekindles record ambitions after setting world 800 meters lead in Monaco. All right, we'll go for a short break. When we come back, I'll have Mureithi Mwito with me in the studio. Na nimetoa ngio jina yake. Mureithi Mwito with me in the studio, and we're going to discuss some of the things that are affecting our country. All right? Okay, let's take that break.